We are not going to wait for others. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicole Zumpano. I am the Director of Distance Learning here at Triton. I am also an adjunct instructor for Dominican down the street and Michigan State. So a lot of the examples you'll see, my personal examples, come from my teaching in both of those graduate programs. So I've taught online for close to 15 years now. So humanizing online instruction comes from Michelle Pacansky-Brock. She's a community college educator in California. She's faculty. It's really hard to pin down what she does. I know she's done some instructional design in the past. She's worked in faculty professional development as well. And she's written a couple books about humanizing online instruction. And basically, her premise of this came out of the pandemic when everybody was forced online. And the whole theme or idea of it is when you show students that you recognize there's a real person that's on the other end, not just a name on the screen, and they feel supported and safe within your class, it's much easier for them to take in the information that you're dishing out to them and, in essence, learning. So basically, in a nutshell, it's creating meaningful connections with the human behind the screen. So there are 4 principles for what Pacansky-Brock says is humanizing online instruction, and it all starts with trust. She says that when you share trust, you're sharing aspects of your life that portray you as a real person, not just the authoritative figure in the room. You care about your students' success, and you create an environment for them that shows them you're not going to judge them if they're making mistakes. Awareness as well, making sure that you learn about your students and what type of supports that they need to succeed. The third principle is empathy. This one is still hard. I've been in the game a very long time. Assuming positive intent. It does become a little bit difficult online as well, but we should all try and assume positive intent of our students. Be flexible. That could be being flexible in extensions, due dates, iterations, and so on, and providing additional support for your students. And then finally, your presence, making sure that you're maintaining a positive online presence. You're communicating with your students in authentic ways and beyond just saying this is when the assignment is due. So being present in the course more than just in the beginning to take questions and at the end saying thanks for being in my course and wrapping it up, but actually having a consistent, authentic presence. There are a number of different elements that fall into what Pacansky-Brock says is humanizing online instruction. We're going to go through all of these. I'm going to give you some examples, both what she has provided and also things that I've done in my own courses as well. So it's important to note all of those things are adaptable, adoptable, and they're honestly simply suggestions. You can have a fantastic stellar online course that does not have all of these components. You're going to pick and choose what works for you in the area of study that you are using and teaching. So the first one is a liquid syllabus. And by liquid syllabus, essentially this means you are creating a living document that can change. So this isn't your official course syllabus that you have to have, 20 pages of policies in. This is something where you cherry pick what you think students might need to know to feel welcome and get excited about being in your class. Some of the main tenets of a liquid syllabus are that they are public, that they are not behind passwords, that they're not protected, and also that they are online versions. It's extremely important to make sure they're mobile friendly because often the students are going to be accessing these things on their mobile device. So whenever you're designing something like this, you do want to check it in a mobile instance so that you can see that it is supportive, it's using helpful language, giving short video tutorials and some examples and so on. There are resources here. I am going to give you a link to this presentation, so don't worry about that. I'll show you at the end where this is. This is her example. Now, in this case, She created an entire website for her liquid syllabus. I don't do that. I'll show you what's in mine. But you can see at the very top, she has all of these different elements. She's got course essentials, what you'll do in the course, support for the students, the schedule, grading, and policies. And you can see in this example, she has a short opening video telling a little bit about herself so the students know who she is. She gives some details about how the course is going to work. She's got a commitment to the students, so she goes ahead, and again, remember this one was around the time of the pandemic closures, so she's recognizing that, explaining that. I'll explain the wisdom law later. She also has her teaching philosophy listed in her liquid syllabus, and then her pact, where she says, this is what you can expect from me as an instructor and what I expect from you. So this is considered friendly language, and this is considered very student-centered. It's not top-down saying, this is what you're going to do for me, and these are the dates you're going to do it. It's also saying to the student, this is what you can expect from me as your instructor. So it's building more of a relationship instead of a top-down. I won't take you through all of her pages. You'll be able to check it out if you're interested. This is something I really like as well. She has a week 1 suggested plan for students to get started. She kind of breaks it down and says, here's what you should do, get on this day, this is what you need to do, this is when it's due, and so on. So she's using this essentially to put everything you need to know about her course in. There's another example down here you can take a look at later as well. This one's a little bit smaller, which I like. It's a little bit more condensed. The essentials, the goals, the resources, grading and policies, and so on. Again, a video introducing the students to the instructor, especially since it's online. She gives some information about herself as well. Contact, and then you can see the pages down below. Mine is very different in the sense that when I scroll onto it, the next page, you'll see it, it'll scroll up. I create a 1-pager. And that 1-pager is just with all the nuts and bolts that I think my students want to know. When are the due dates? What do I need to do to get started? And what I do with mine is I send it to them a week before the course begins. So it gives them an opportunity to get a sense of what's going to be in the course without having to go into Canvas or D2L. Those are the two that I use at the universities, and look up, the official course syllabus. Because let's be honest, most students aren't going to read your 30-page syllabus. It's more, for in case there's some trouble. But you can see in mine, it's just a 1-pager, little bit of information, how they can contact me, course description. I tell them these are the major topics we're going to cover. These are the objectives, which they probably don't read. There's how you're going to be assessed. There's my late policy. Here's our schedule. And then my expectations for course community and academic honesty. That's it. That's the entire thing. I also always tell them the full syllabus is available. In this case, it's Canvas. Go into Canvas, make sure that you're checking it out. I also, when I send them this visual syllabus, I send them a course overview podcast. Have either of you used Notebook LM?
I know LM.
Okay, so Notebook LM is an AI tool where you can upload documents and it will create various resources for that. One of the features of it is it will create a podcast. So what I did with Notebook LM, and it is free if you have a Google account, is I went in and I put my syllabus into Notebook LM, and then there's just a quick button that says generate audio. I'll play just like the first minute. It's crazy creepy how realistic it is. Get this. are AI generated voices. And basically, it generated this. You could see this is about, I think, 13 minutes, just based on me uploading my syllabus. Literally nothing more. But by me providing them both a visual syllabus in email that gave them the course details they needed to know, this is when we start, this is how you get here. We have no books needed for this course. And then by also giving them an audio podcast, I've given them 3 different ways to engage with my course a week before we even started. So I'm taking that cognitive overload off of their back about day 1, having to figure out where to go, what to do, and how to get in. So I'm humanizing that course. Course homepages are also extremely important. It looks a little bit different here at Triton, and I'll give you some content for that as well. But basically with a homepage, you want to create a homepage that is super free of clutter. It's very friendly. It makes it very clear to students how to get started. So in this particular course, this is my entire homepage. This is it. I have a graphic at the top, and I'll explain that graphic to you later on. I've got information here that just is the course information, saying the course dates, saying it's online, saying my office hours are by appointment, my contact information. I give them 2 different ways to access the course material. I tell them the course is set up in weekly modules. You can click on the weeks below, or on the left side is where Canvas has its additional menu. And then one important document that they're going to use every single week when they turn things in, I have a link to it at the bottom. That's my entire homepage. Now, with the way Blackboard works, it doesn't default to one homepage. So this isn't going to necessarily work for you. But the way it's going to work here with Blackboard is take a look at this document later when you have time. You want to create a course overview module. So that's the very first thing that your students are going to click on when they get into your course. And this document that I created has a bunch of different suggestions for you in terms of different things that could be inside that course overview module. So this, unfortunately, would be the equivalent of what a welcoming homepage would look like. Next up is getting to know you surveys. The purpose of surveys is to try and understand your students, how you can support them. The hot zone, as they call it, would really be either before the course begins or during the first week. So at Michigan State, we use Google for a lot of our organization materials with the students. We have a feedback notebook. So every single assignment feedback that I'm giving to students is in this one gigantic Google Doc. We have an About Me section at the top. So it's not a traditional survey, but this is a requirement that they start out. It's your basic names, pronouns, preferred name, contact, country, and so on. We ask for information about their current roles so we know what it is that they're doing right now. We ask them what their learning goals are, what they want to get out of the course, what they predict their grade is going to be, and what they need from us in order to succeed. And then what I think is probably the best question that we ask is if there's anything we should know that might affect your coursework. Because oftentimes students aren't going to volunteer things if they don't not only necessarily think you need to know, but a lot of times they're not thinking about, you know, things that are going to affect until you specifically ask them. In a case like this, I had a student who filled this in basically saying, my dad's in hospice. I'm in Ohio, he's in Michigan. As an FYI, I don't know what's going on right now. Me knowing that enabled me to just put a note down on my notes next to her. So when I saw work was late, I didn't go for the automatic late mark. You know, I'm marking this late. I was able to check in. or if I noticed that things just seemed stressful for her, I was able to send a quick email saying, hey, you know, how's everything going? I was able to comment back on this and say, yeah, my dad was in hospice. I totally get it. Reach out any point if you need an extension. Again, different ways to humanize. And then also, I'd ask them if they had questions for me, you know, any questions for me. A lot of times those questions, you know, were just logistical. Oftentimes, students didn't put anything. But again, it was inviting them to ask. Come on. Oh, there's two other ones I'll show you since this is stalled for a second. This one, getting to know you, and again, in this one that I'm going to show you, it was from remote learning, so the questions you're going to see, again, kind of reference that time period, but there are definitely things you could take away from that. Let me go back to it. So, do you prefer to be called by a different name? How are you feeling today? Again, remember that was the whole pandemic. And then asking them, you know, if you want to explain that, you can. What technologies do you have access to at home? Do you have Wi-Fi? You know, how's your Wi-Fi? Is it good? How comfortable are you using technology, video conferencing tools, and so on? And again, just, you know, basic information that you need to know. How can I make this a positive experience for you? What motivates you, and so on. And then one other one is very similar. This is a who's in class, wanting to know, you know, do you play on an athletic team? Do you live off campus? This is a 4-year institution. How old are you? And so on. What type of technology do you have available to, or have available? This one is also a very interesting one. I have a disability, either invisible or visible. Oftentimes we find that our students, even if they don't have a registered disability on file, they can still use additional supports. So by asking these things, it again helps us understand who's in our class. Other things, this is super small, you can look at it later. I've started giving mid-course check-ins. So just a check-in basically saying, how are you feeling about the course overall? And one thing you're going to notice, as much as you can see it from where you're at, I always start with the required Likert question, super simple. It's just a yes or no. And then I always have an optional, is there anything else you want me to know about that answer, right underneath it. That's completely optional. But how are you feeling about the course? How are you feeling about the content? How are you feeling about the instructor overall? How are you feeling about the course design and layout? How are you feeling about the feedback? How are you feeling about your effort, and so on? And at the very end, it just basically says, is there anything else you want Nicole to know? It's anonymous, but I give them the option to put their name if they want me to respond. And then you can see this slide, you'll be able to visit it later. It's just some other questions that you can consider if you were going to give a survey out to your students. Next up is encouraging encounters with your students to make it more human, moving beyond just due dates and your course announcements each week saying, this week, this is what's coming up, and that's it. This is also a good time to remind you, when you're addressing students one-on-one, use their name in email. This is very old school, this will date me. It drives me insane when my graduate students just are like, hey, or don't even have any greeting, they just immediately start. What pages? Give me a hey Nicole. I don't ask for a Mrs. Zumpano. I ask, call me Nicole. I'll correct them when they say Professor Zumpano. Just call me Nicole, but address me. Same thing. So this comes back to, there's research with students in younger K-12, but still relevant. When you're in person, if you greet students by their name, they get a hit of dopamine. So every time you're saying someone's name, you're giving them a feel good that you're recognizing them. So this is even more important when you're dealing with somebody online. I also have personalized announcements to my students. When I say personalized announcements, what I'll do is I'll do a recap at the end of each lesson each week. I give them some general feedback about what I saw that they were all doing as a whole, and then I actually call out individual students. And I tell the entire class, major kudos to Gabby, who took a lesson she does with her first graders, redeveloped it at different levels of SAMR. This was so cool to see. It might become an option. Dan had a thorough reflection in which he discussed his journey. These students are not only getting a hit of dopamine, but I'm signaling to the rest of the class, these are the things that I am looking for. And then what I do with these is I should have brought it, I have a document, basically a page with all of their names, and I write down next to their name what week I called them out, so that I'm not calling out Jeff every week and never calling out Sam. Now, that's not to say that I balance it, but I'm trying. You know, there are some students, even graduate students, they're never going to get called out because they're just not producing quality work that would enable them to get called out. But I do try and get as many of them as I can. I also take my announcements and I send them to each student, copy them, and send it to their email as well. So they are receiving the same information in 2 different modalities, depending on where it's at. It's more of a convenience for them. I also personalize by checking in on content. So for example, one of the things that I have them do is content curation collections, where they're using online tools to create collections. At the end of that assignment, I came in and I said, okay, so here's how it broke down. 24 of you use Wakelet, 5 of you use Padlet, 1 of you use Symbaloo, 1 Pinterest, 1 Google Keep. That tells the students that I'm looking at their content. I'm not just checking a box and saying, yeah, okay, you completed this. I'm giving them stats as a whole. It's helping to build community in the class. This is also an example of a recap that you can read through later. Week number 2, they're looking at technology integration frameworks. So I go through and I tell them how many times each of the frameworks were included. And then I give them just a random fun fact about my connection to somebody that produced some of those videos. I also, in my announcements and emails, always give them additional links to content that if they're interested, they can explore more. I always tell them this, you know, this is just FYI, it's not tied to any video, but I keep that available for them. Giving warm, wise feedback, moving beyond just saying, you know, you check the box or not even saying anything at all. When you have time, check out this resource. This is great. This gives an idea of some things you should say as opposed to some things you should not say. So that's a neat little document. Yeah. Okay. So in my courses, not all of them, but in most of them, my students blog. That's how they respond to discussion posts. They don't do it internally inside D2L or Canvas. I make them create public blogs. So when I'm giving feedback, and notice it's in quotes there, I'm not giving them anything that violates FERPA. I'm basically giving them a, you know, nod to say, hey, this was great. Thanks for doing that, and so on. You can see here. I'm just giving them some kudos. I have a statement inside my syllabus that reminds them we're going to be blogging. And when I'm making comments to you as a colleague in education, not as your instructor, because this is what they might see publicly. And again, this is what they're going to see privately. And I tell them point blank, anything that I need to say to you privately about how to fix your blog or things that you're missing, that's going to come through Canvas comments. Self-affirming icebreakers. I am not a fan of the icebreaker in person. However, online, it can really help build community. And again, it allows students to see you as a real person as well. So One of the things that I did in a course that actually talked about online teaching is to have a class spirit challenge every week. This was completely optional. It was a discussion post. They did not have to engage with it at all. But I found that when I asked about pets and I asked about music, those got the biggest hits out there. Everybody wants to post pictures of their pets. Everybody wants to post their Spotify playlist as well. So they really enjoyed that. And the nice part about that is it helped them connect with each other. Because of course, everyone's got comments for little puppies and little kitties, and they might say, oh, I saw that band live last year, or so on. It helps them build connections with each other. I tried my darndest to stay out of this thread. I am fully engaged with my courses online, and I try really hard to not comment on everything, just because, again, you know, they need to just talk to each other sometimes. One thing I've started doing this year as well is giving them informal polls within the course. It's just a short, quick, multimodal way for them to engage with the topic. And again, I'm not doing any of this for a grade. You know, this is just a quick way for them to answer something that has to do with the course content for that week. And I created these for free in Canva.
Can I ask really quickly?
Yeah.
Have you found a Blackboard equivalent? Those like real quick, like one-click polls, a good Blackboard equivalent?
Same thing. Blackboard allows you to put embed codes in. So basically, you would create this in Canva, and then you would go to share content, and you would take the embed code and just slip it in there. Yeah. So you could definitely do it.
I feel like a lot of us don't know how to use Canva.
Okay.
I think it's an old Blackboard is our world here for a lot of us. So.
Right. Okay. I don't know if I can get into Canva. Wait, let me do it at the end, Jeff, in case nobody else cares. But I'll see if I can get into it from this computer easily. On my laptop, everything's always logged in, but I can show you how to do that. This is another one that came out of the pandemic. If you're an emoji fan as well, these are ones that were created online by a professor in Massachusetts using Bitmojis. And basically, she would drop one of these in anywhere into your discussion post, and it was just her icebreaker for that day. In this particular case, she was having synchronous courses. All of mine are asynchronous. Wisdom walls. Wisdom walls are fun as well. So a wisdom wall is just a way for students, former students, to give advice to your incoming or your new students. A way to build connection. This could be done video or text. There's a VoiceStart example. You can visit it if you're interested. It's not the greatest, but I put it there in case you want to see a different example. Here are two that I've done. So in my case, what I did, this is Padlet, if you're familiar with Padlet. Same thing, embedded it, threw it right in. But I created a super short video, less than a minute, that just said, hey, you know, the next time I teach this course, what's a piece of advice that you give to students to help them succeed in my course? And in this particular case, I only had 5 people comment, but that's okay, because I'm still going to take this and I'm still going to embed it or make it available to my new students and say, hey, this is what old students say. Yes, sir.
My name is David.
Hey, David.
I'm from the technology, building,
Okay.
automotive. I do something similar with the previous PowerPoint slide.
Okay.
What I like to do is I like to bring students from other classes that I had.
Yeah.
So more advanced students. For example, I had a student who was in my intro class, and then he moved up in his place of work. So he started at a small independent shop, but then he moved to Audi Exchange in Highland Park.
Yeah.
Then from Audi he moved to Porsche. So whenever I see the student, I told him, hey, can you come and give the speech to my students? And talk about his experience. Yeah. And that really, helps the new students see themselves in the future. You know,
Yes.
what are the things that they could do? What are the jobs that they can get if they continue their education into the automotive field? And that really helps them. You know.
The beauty of it too is it's so easy. You can even tell him, you can email him at work and say, whip out your phone and take a video of yourself and send it to me. And you can pop that video in and play it. So he doesn't even have to physically come here, you know, but that's very cool. Thank you. Let's see, so also, so yeah, giving advice and so on. So not only do I do a mid-course survey, I do an end-of-course survey, which is crazy detailed because I am truly passionate about designing my online courses. So you can see the questions later, but just things like, did you watch the course overview video? Because I create a 15-minute course overview video that I send in that pre-course communication with the visual syllabus, with the podcast recording, showing them how to get in and around on my course. But I'm asking them all sorts of questions about the course itself, getting all sorts of feedback. You can see it's super lengthy. One of the questions I ask them is I ask them to describe my course using 3 words or less. And then I take those words and I put them into a word cloud generator. And a word cloud generator will take words that are listed more than once, and it will make them larger. So the words that you see up here that are large, fun, engaging, informative, challenging, interesting, relevant, these are words that multiple students use to describe the course. The ones that were only mentioned once or twice, good class, well organized, current, valuable, those appear very small. I keep even the warts in here. There's not many of them. Sometimes there's one in here that says redundant.
I like the social media man.
Yeah, this was a course on social media. So yeah, but then what I do is I take this, and you saw it, it was on the top of my homepage. So every time they log in, they're seeing these words before they engage with my content. Bumper videos, I'm not sure why they're called bumper videos, but basically they're super short videos that is visually oriented with music, and again, it helps introduce a concept. I won't play the whole thing, but this is just the beginning of a heat bumper video.
Hi students, so I'm coming to you from my backyard patio down in the South Bay, and it is quite hot today. In fact, we are just coming out of a heat wave right now.
But we have to be careful with the word heat. Remember, heat is a form of
she's
energy.
going into the concept that she wants to teach kids. So I don't do a traditional bumper video like that. You can even think of those potentially as lecture videos. I do very few of those. But one thing I do, and I'm adamant about doing, is I create a weekly overview video for every single module. I always at the top tell them how long it's going to be. In this case, I try and keep them under 5 minutes. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm recording the screen. I'm taking them through that module and saying, this is what we're going to do this week. This is what I expect of you. Be on the lookout for this, this, and that. I always include myself in the video so that they can actually feel like they're seeing a human talk to them as well. This was a great quote by Flower Darby, who is an instructional designer, very big on designing online courses, basically saying in this age of AI, your online students want to see you. So they don't necessarily care if you're saying or you've got, a messy background. They just want to see you as well. One of my future goals, and I haven't yet done it, but in my courses, 2 of my courses, students have to create final portfolios or final websites. And while I give them exemplars and say, hey, take a look at this, I like this from here, I like this from here, oftentimes they're looking for more. So one of my future goals is to actually create a final project video where I'm walking them through somebody else's creation, saying this is what I like about it, and so on. Optional Zoom meeting, I don't do them. I don't do them. Luckily, thank goodness, both Dominican and Michigan State, they leave that up to me as an instructor because they are asynchronous. I've never found there's a big participation when I offer an optional, but every survey I get one or two saying, well, I wish it was offered at least. So I go back and forth with if I'm going to do that or not. But I absolutely positively do create course overview videos for every single module. Micro lectures, we talked about that are your course lectures. Things to remember about these, please keep them short. They should be no longer than 10-minute segments. You are not going to hold the student's attention if they are longer than that. You want to be able to give them a break from engaging with the content. So if you have a lecture that's 40 minutes, break it up into 4 pieces. Tell them watch it in order, but by giving them 4 small pieces, you're giving them more agency about when they view that content. We're not going to watch hers. And then some additional ideas for you. As I mentioned, I do communicate prior to day 1 in the course. Again, in that email that I send to them, I tell them who I am. I tell them how to address me. Just call me Nicole. I make sure to tell them the multimodality of the course run dates. One thing I also do with all of my online courses, every online course I teach, I open it 2 days early each week. So I open content every Saturday morning at 12 a.m. They don't have to engage with it, but it gives them the option to engage with it, so they have 2 full weekends to complete work, because most of my due dates are Fridays and Sundays. In the communication, I give them a link to the syllabus, the visual syllabus you saw, the podcast you saw, the course overview video, the due dates, required forms. Because my students blog, I give them the option of blogging either fully publicly with their first and last name using a pseudonym, or blogging internally within the Canvas discussion post. Out of the 10 years I've done this, I've had 3 students ever want to blog privately inside Canvas. 2 of those were safety concerns, like stalker issues. A third was a student who was going to be changing careers and didn't want their boss to know that they were going to change a career. Beyond that, they pretty much all blog publicly. However, I make them fill out a Google survey form that just tells me, it's never been a problem. I've never had an issue with it. Other tips for success, and so on. I also remind them, all of my courses, at Dominican, they're 8 weeks. At Michigan State, they're 7 weeks. So I remind them at the pace that we're going to be moving. I also create a print calendar for them. This is something that I stumbled on a few years ago. As an instructor, I sit down and I write down every Saturday, open module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all my due dates. I put it all on a piece of paper, and it dawned on me one time, I thought, why aren't I sharing this with the students? So now I share it with them. So they have a 1-page printable calendar that will give them every due date for the entire course, just to help them stay organized as well. What else? Group projects are a great way to humanize your course. In this particular case, this was the social media course that you've seen. The students annotated a terms of service. We were doing a terms of service project. So as an annotation, I uploaded Twitch's terms of service into a Google Doc, and they came in, they found things that they either questioned, wondered, found interesting, and so on. And they marked it up, they made comments, and then they responded to each other in the comments. I did not grade if they responded to each other. I simply graded that they participated in it. But it was a way for them to connect with each other and engage with each other. I also, this is something I struggle with, I don't require them to do group projects in an online course. Some people do, and I do know that a lot of universities want them to. I find it's very bumpy, and I find that often there's one student that's doing the bulk of the work. So I give them the option, they can certainly do the option. And sometimes I'll get students that are in the same subject area that they want to work together. But by and large, most people want to do it on their own because they want to just do it at their own speed, at their own time. All right, I have a ton of different resources for you, different ways that you can humanize online teaching. And then you'll see also the URL should be on the bottom of that handout I gave you. This is a lowercase l. So just make sure that you mark down that's a lowercase l and not a capital I, because this is case sensitive to get in. And that'll take you here. Any questions for me? All right. I'm going to see if I can get into Canva just so I can show you. All right. I'm going to come. Let me think about how I'm going to do this, because that's in a different Gmail account. All right. Let me get out of this one.
Can I ask you a question while you're fighting?
Yeah.
So there's a few classes that I'm considering right now running as hybrid rather than pure online.
Yeah.
I would assume that most of these same, even though they're going to see me possibly once a week,
Right.
I would assume that most of the same principles would apply to a hybrid course,
Sure.
the online portion of a hybrid course.
Yeah.
Compared to just
The only thing
online.
you're going to want to do with the hybrid is you are going to want to make sure that you are connecting that online content when you're face to face.
It would be very direct.
Yeah, yeah, you want to. That's like the biggest thing that you need to look at.
The class I'm thinking of is my deciduous tree ID class.
Okay.
Where I don't need to read the characteristics of all these trees.
Okay.
You read through them and then come to lab and we'll walk outside and look at it in person.
Oh, that's a
Rather
great
than
idea.
spending 4.5 hours in class, you could spend 2 hours in a lab rather than 4.5.
Yes.
And they can say, here's all the maples, here's all the characteristics, here's all the terminology, here's what a leaf scar looks like, all of those types of things that they can look through at their leisure.
Yeah.
We come to lab, ask all the questions while we walk around and look at stuff. It might just be easier for some of the students because it's really long.
Yeah. Right.
It's 5:30 to 10:10 on Friday night. That's a rough one.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, usually we blend in with the football crowd and all that sort of thing. Well, I'm good.
All right. Let me get into.
AP.
This is it's a good thing that you have. Like I use a password protector, so I don't know my Google password. So I gotta look it up. All right. I'm seeing if it comes through.
So Canva is not an LTI. It's like just like a third-party site.
It's a third-party site. It is free to educators. If you don't know it, I highly, highly recommend using it. You can create infographics, posters, PowerPoints. You can create websites. So my one-page website is Canva.
A lot of my students use Canva in their professional life. And
Yes.
then if I have them put together presentations for class, it always comes through as Canva. And I have no idea how to work it because I'm not a Canva person. But they're really, really good at it.
Oh yeah, it's used extensively in K-12. My background is K-12, and it's very heavily used in K-12. So they're probably experiencing it before they get to Triton, including Google.
Yeah.
Microsoft is not used by and large in Illinois schools.
No.
There's a few, but very, very few.
Yeah, my son is 17, just about 18, and everything is Google.
Yeah,
Which I can never help.
I love Google.
I got out of college and went to work outside in the field, and then skipped all the technological advancements for the last 3 years.
They all have issues.
Yeah.
All
it
right,
is.
we're not getting in there. All right, let's get into Canva.
If it's challenging because of technological reasons, it's okay. And I mean, they basically post a code for you, right? You make your content, and then it'll be like, decide you got it.
There's some of that. All right, let's see if we can get in now. So this will take me to my dashboard. This is a student assignment. So some of these you'll see are student assignments. So like these are examples of my polls. So in this particular case, I'm asking them, is there a module that you enjoyed? I can come here. So I would create this, and then I would come here to share. And down here it says embed. And I would just copy that embed code. And then if I get into Blackboard,
Is it kind of like copying a video and uploading it to your Blackboard?
kind of.
Would it be similar?
An embed code will actually put the entire thing. Oh, I'm going to do this one. It'll put everything together, like package everything that needs to be there. Actually, I'll do it and then I just won't. Let's go to this one. I'll just delete it. So let's say I come here, I'm in Blackboard, I click my little plus, I say create. All right, we're going to create a document. In my document, you see right here it says HTML. So I come here, I paste my HTML, and there it is. I'm going to cancel that. And again, I can do that really with anything. So like this is a poll, and then I can show you down here. So again, here's that visual syllabus that I showed you. This is just a one-page Canva, and I change, the dates and the course information each time. And I can share this a couple different ways. If I'm going to share this in an email, again, I click on share. I can do the public view link and just get a link and send them just to the website, or I can make it a live website as well. But I mean, it really is an incredible tool considering it's free. I've made a resume in Canva, sheets, docs, presentations. You could do social media posts. There's so many options. And yeah, you can see you can get into them all. All right, let me log out of that one. So that's that. Stop recording. All right.
At the top left, I think. Yeah, you put that little hamburger.
Come out of